Shout out to those Lions, man. Mel Kiper Jr. released his final mock draft, and it was a 2-rounder. And I can't wait to hear what the ball knowers have to say about this. I see KG's perked up over there in the sound booth. Flannel Sam is smiling ear to ear. And I'm wondering why, because I'm going to need you in this segment for both of them to give me how many picks on the Flannel Sam pick meter these players are.
Absolutely. So yes, Mel Kiper Jr. came out with his latest mock draft, in which he has the Lions picking at 28 and 60, no trades, and in the first round, KG, if you want to give me the chime, the Detroit Lions select JB, throw it on up there. Donovan Ezeraku, outside linebacker from Boston College. And I'll just read the write-up quickly for those of you who are on audio only from Mel Kiper Jr. The Lions' defense was hampered by injuries last season, even before the injured reserve started filling up, though. The edge rush depth chart was concerning. Aiden Hutchinson, who is coming off a leg injury, needs a running mate. The only other Detroit edge rusher who had more than 3 sacks last season was Zadarius Smith, who was acquired at midseason and released this spring. Ezeraku jumped to 21 in my recent big board update, meaning he not only take care of the pass rush need, but also do so at value. His 65 pressures led the FBS last season, and he turned them into 16 and a half sacks. And that's where I want to start with a Donovan Ezeraku, because we all know how I am. If you check all of the boxes, you're good with me. If you've got the production, if you've got the PFF metrics, if you've got the measurables, and if you've got just film that jumps off the screen. He's got all 4. And I want to start out with the production. As Mel Kiper said, 65 pressures, 80 tackles, 16 and a half sacks, 21 tackles for loss last year. Those are monster numbers. The only player in college football who can really rival those or be just a little bit better is Mike Green. And Mike Green's another one that has everything that I want. I would take either of them, but Donovan Ezeraku, just elite production. Also with the PFF metrics, though, 18% pass rush win rate, which is a little bit lower than James Pierce's and Mike Green's, but it's approaching 20%. That's certainly acceptable. A 90 grade overall, which is excellent. An 84 run defense rate and a 10% run stop rate, which that is way at the upper percentile of edge rushers in this class. And with the measurables, 34-inch arm length, which is great. Number 1 in the shuttle drill amongst edge rushers in the combine. Number 1 in the 3-cone drill for edge rushers in the combine. That's great. If you want to say there's anything that's concerning or might deter the Lions from taking him, it's the fact that he's not like a big defensive end. He's 6'2", 247. He's more of an outside linebacker. But at the end of the day, when you look at his production, when you look at the film, which I'm going to roll in just a couple of seconds, what I think Donovan Ezeraku could potentially provide this team, and it's something you've seen from the Lions before, I think he could be James Houston on steroids, because Donovan Ezeraku, as you're going to see, has that elite bend, which we always talked about with a James Houston and a speed rush. But Donovan Ezeraku is a much better prospect, a first-round level prospect as opposed to a 6th-round level prospect. And Donovan Ezeraku can actually be an every down edge rusher. He's more complete, obviously, than James Houston ever was. And we know James Houston was certainly not complete. He played very limited snaps, and his job was to just kill the quarterback, which he did at a great rate in 2022, but obviously fell off a cliff after that. But what we all want to talk about, what we've all been waiting for, roll the film, JB Smoove.
It's good film.
It's great film. Look at the power and then the bend. Gets around the tackle for a sack. This one right here, speed and bend. The tackle has no chance, kills the quarterback. I like this one because you see a little agility. Fake to the inside, outside bend, sack. Again, a little bit more agility, bend, sack. This one here, just more great bend and speed. Tackles have no chance. Right here, you're going to see, again, a little bit more bend and force fumble. Look at this one, though. Bend, quarterback steps up, spins, sacks him. And this one, you're going to see a club swim move to the inside for a sack as well. And then the rest of it is just him using his patented moves for pressures. But what you saw right there is just an elite bend, elite type of speed off of the edge. He showed some power as well, but as you could also see, although in a more limited sample size on this film tape, is that he's got a spin move. When a quarterback steps up, when your first move doesn't exactly work how you want, he's got a counter. He spins to the opposite direction, gets the quarterback down for a sack. And you also see him club and swim tackle to the inside to get pressure from the inside of the tackle as well. So Donovan Ezeraku, to me, has it all. And if the Lions were to pick him at pick 28, I would be thrilled with their pick at 28. And I would actually be a lot more happy about the vision and the direction of the Lions going into this season, because I still think they need to add more. I think they need somebody who could potentially challenge for a starting spot. And I'm not saying Ezeraku will necessarily get it on day one, but this guy, he could. Considering what's already there, he absolutely could start day one if he's drafted by the Lions, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to be able to ask effectively is when you're going at 28, I know KG, his standard, especially if it's on that offensive line, if you're picking somebody there, you want them starting. You didn't even say you want them to be starter level. You think that this would be a player that's stepping in and starting.
You have to beat out Graham Glasgow, flat out.
Yeah, and that's where obviously when you're looking at the tape and his ability to, not one of necessarily the man movers or the meat men that I know Cavassier Chase appreciates in the trenches. But his technique allows him his speed, and then he's still about 250 pounds and just under 6'3". I think that's a really good combination of speed and power. You showed in your video breakdown as well his ability to use the two. And what I like is the speed. When you get jammed up, who are you as a player as well in that backfield? Because we see that throughout the course of this thing for the Lions, getting to this point, we've seen defensive linemen that can get into the backfield, but what are they in their pursuit or their second pursuit when they get chipped, when they get blocked? Sometimes when you overrun the quarterback, we've seen that a couple times with Derek Barnes. And with this type of player, it seems like his skill set is one that will translate to NFL where he'll be able to re-engage and still have that second burst, even after getting engaged after a first block, man. I like the way that you put it too, that there's a certain bevy of things, do they fit these metrics? And if those players do, you definitely do. And I know with yours, you want them to be starter day one, and you believe this is a player that can potentially compete for that or earn that day one.
And I think it's important, and that's why not only do I like the player Donovan Ezeraku, you know that I've been very consistent. I wanted the Lions to do a little bit more in free agency when it comes to helping the edge rusher position, especially since they got rid of a Zadarius Smith. I think it is imperative that you get somebody else who can challenge for a starting job at day one, because right now you're looking at a battle between Marcus Davenport, Josh Pascal, and AQM. And I'm not trying to disrespect those guys too much. Davenport's injury prone, Josh Pascal is mid, and AQM has been, for the most part, a journeyman. Although he did play well last year, I want another name in that mix, somebody who is more talented and has a much higher upside than all of them.
And KG, I definitely go to you now. I want to be able to address a comment that I see here too in the chat where they were saying they would like to. I said, Mike G, watch the highlights. He says Ezeraku is more powerful than Green. Green relies on speed. And I saw another where they said it. They would like to discuss some of his weaknesses, and I wanted to be able to, based off his profile, ask you guys a couple questions about that as well.
Yeah.
And how alarming or not, or concerning or not, it is for a player like this, because I like your perspective. You always believe that if we have the right coaches development and the right base and the prospect, that you can develop these players that you bring here. And we've seen the Lions have some success there with some of the players that they haven't had as much with.
No, absolutely. And the only big question mark with Donovan Ezeraku is, of course, his size. He's 6'2", a little bit on the smaller side for defensive end, and he goes against the grain of what the Lions traditionally like at their edge rusher position. So if they were to draft a guy like this, I would be on board. I don't know if he starts right away, though, only because of his size, and he needs to develop at the next level in terms of playing the run. But he can be that pass rush specialist that we have been missing ever since James Houston has left the building. So I would love this pick. There's a lot to like about Donovan Ezeraku. His speed coming off the edge, that's something that the Lions don't have. That's an archetype that I just wish that they would lean into a little bit more. He has that. He's a very intelligent player, very crafty, and that's one thing that you know about him. He doesn't just rely on his speed. You'll see him getting his bag a little bit. You know, he'll give you some moves.
Crafty.
No, absolutely. He's capable of giving you some moves, some counter moves. Very intelligent player, knows how to disengage very well. And he's somebody that at the next level, especially on a team like this, I feel like can absolutely develop maybe into a every down edge later on in his career. But coming out the gate, you got a third down specialist that you know can get to the passer. And that's something that this Lions defense sorely needs, man. So I would love this pick at 28 if he's available.
And I see it in the chat here. I'm salty. He said, I'd love to see the film of his weaknesses too. I'm sure he has some, and that's fair. Obviously, all these prospects are going to have.
It's mainly in the run game.
This is interesting though, because even his profile here, I get you, Flynn. Hold on. His profile, all of it is about the things that we know. Everyone says it's his size, but we told you to put that one word in your back pocket, which was crafty.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of it. He's an intelligent, crafty individual. We're all going to run up against metrics and things that might hold us back. How did that affect the dog in Amik Robertson when he had to go up against Justin Jefferson? Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm saying. It's like when I look at his weaknesses here, it gets engulfed by size when blockers get into him. Size of tackles, lacks bull rush power to collapse tackles into pockets. But it's like if you kind of already know that, when you're talking about the elite bend that he has, he doesn't necessarily have to collapse a pocket in those types of ways. And that's why I like the fact that you guys kind of broke it down from that perspective, in that the weaknesses that we see on display is like, okay, are you going to be able to tee up? Okay, there he is. Send the power at him. Not on this defensive line with the Detroit Lions. Yeah. You're going to be looking at Aiden Hutchinson. You're going to be looking at the man meat in the middle. This is an individual, like when you talk about a specialist type of player, that's going to have an opportunity to play off of everything that's here, everything else that's here. Because James Houston had less measurables than what he has.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's where it's like when you talk about the weakness component, this is one of those players, and a couple of these guys that are defensive, pass rush specialists. The common theme here is that they're all smart, and they utilize their smartness, their craftiness, and certain techniques to overcome a lot of these kind of drawbacks that they might have.
No, James Houston was way more limited than a Donovan Ezeraku. And, for all the good that James Houston did, especially in that year that he had the 8 sacks in 9 games, that's no easy feat. But Donovan Ezeraku grades out to be way, way better. He can be a little more polished in the run game. And if you're looking for a weakness, I would say that's the weakness, because his pass rushing grades are through the roof. But can he be a little more polished in the run game? Yes. He's not somebody that you're going to stun a whole lot because of his size. But if he can just maintain his gap integrity and not let, backs get to the outside, if he has that lateral quickness to be able to stop running plays to the outside, I think he'll be fine. But if you're looking for a weakness, that's probably it. But he grades out pretty damn well as a kind of overall edge rusher that, particularly is mastering in pass rush.
Well, and that's where... And like I said, I mentioned the size. I mentioned how that could be a deterrent from the Lions drafting him, even though I don't necessarily think it's a weakness. And if you want to say that I should have provided more run-stopping highlights, or that his ability against the run is a little less than, I disagree with that wholeheartedly. But whatever.
It's not.
It's your prerogative if that's what you want to think. But at the end of the day, I'm salty. Are you really expecting me to come here providing a low-light tape? Something that you never see anywhere when it comes to draft coverage. Mel Kiper is talking about Donovan Ezeraku going in the first round, and I co-sign that 100%. Do you think that he has just a plethora of weaknesses that are even available on tape? And if I co-sign it, I'm obviously going to lean more positive. It's just, I'm not going to, again, standards for thee, but not for ye. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, Kiper has him number 21 on his big board, and that's the thing. There's been several different statements you guys have said since we've gotten more into our mock drafts and profiles and prospect breakdowns. And one of the things is this: it's like you have the ability to develop these guys, and when you're talking about the full defense that you're going to add them to, that's where a lot of these defensive line prospects. That's where this draft looks very, very deep to me. Now, depending on where you draft is what type of player you're picking. And so At 28, you're hoping that you can get a player that is going to be, by all large parts, by most all the scouts and metrics and such, and based on the actual performance on the field, is going to be one of those top 20 type players, because now you're getting somewhat of a steal or a deal out of a player who won the award for the nation's top defensive end. So it's like, what are you going to do here? And I know that that's not the end-all, be-all, but on every single metric on the field, in the awards, with the stats, when you're talking about pressures and how often he's able to turn those into sacks, I don't know how any Detroit Lions fan isn't looking at that and saying, well, one of our weaknesses or one of the things we complain about the most is turning pressures into sacks. This is a player who has some crafty intelligence and some technique to be able to do that. And if there's a way that you can kind of bottle that up with this defensive line, that's why I ask you, how many picks, man, on your pick meter?
Unlimited. At number 28. And here comes an interesting hypothetical, and this is something that Mike G asked to Easy, and shout out Easy in the chat. Thank you always for
Donovan Ezeraku guy. He was the first person to introduce me to
absolutely. Donovan. And Mike G says, Easy, who do you like better, Ezeraku, or he calls him Mikey Green, Mike Green, and Easy says Mike Green. And you know what? I don't hate that at all.
But Mike Green's going to go further.
I was going to say Mike Green's not going to be there.
Yeah, he's top 15 probably.
If you would have asked me right now, would you rather stay pat at 28 and pick Ezeraku, or would you rather Brad Holmes do that or trade up for Mike Green? I'd probably stand pat at 28 and get Donovan Ezeraku. Although if the Lions identify Mike Green as somebody who they want and trade up, I would be thrilled, because at the end of the day, we don't know what Brad Holmes is thinking. And this is something from Ed O'Neill as well, which could parlay into this. He says that the Lions need a speed rusher. They've got too many power ones, or not too many, but enough power ones.
Yeah,
and I would agree with that.
I agree.
It does seem like, and I know Josh Pascal is a little bit different, but he can hybrid as a defensive line as well. Just a lot of big defensive ends, not just like a speed guy. And I understand that it kind of goes against their scheme a little bit, but I'm not passing up on a guy like Donovan Ezeraku because you're concerned that he might not be a scheme fit. I agree. Give me a speed rusher in this draft any day of the week.
You need one. You haven't had one since James Houston. And when he was healthy, he was great, but you've been missing that ever since he's left this lineup. And like Sam said, you have enough run stoppers to be able to compensate. I would much rather go in the archetype of somebody that can get around that edge very, very quickly and get to the quarterback.
Do you remember? Because what was that defensive line that James Houston played with? Do you guys remember the players on there? Because it seemed like it absolutely sprung him forward, sprung him loose for a lot of different plays. We know what he had as it relates to the bend, the speed, and his prowess to be able to get into the backfield before the injury. And that's where players like that, it does excite me. If people remember what James Houston looked like when he went on that spurt, and we thought that this guy, even after he got hurt, we were just like, yo, just wait till James Houston gets back. Even when he hit the field, we were like, just wait till he gets back in game shape. And it was because of how effective he looked on that defensive line and getting home. And that's where it's intriguing. Sometimes I do want an absolute mauler, but it's like you really just want somebody that can get into the backfield and put the quarterback down, make life hectic. Everyone's talking about these mobile quarterbacks. Everybody's talking about these quarterbacks that can make plays on the run. Surprise, Jordan Love, Caleb Williams. This is some of the things that these guys like to do right here in our own division, let alone if you're going to go and face off against a Jalen Hurts or a Patrick Mahomes to try and punch home a Super Bowl. I like the speed, especially if you get it in that hybrid. It's not like, what was James Houston? Was he 6'1" maybe? He was even smaller.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, if you're getting it in this kind of, 6'3", 250 speed, elite bend.
And that's why I brought up James Houston, because that archetype can work, on the opposite side of Hutch. We've seen it work before. Yeah. So to say that it's not a scheme fit, I don't agree with that.
Who else was there?
Yeah.
I'm missing somebody.
Yeah, Hutch Alim and James Houston were kind of the jet. Charles Harris.
Right, whoever that other D tackle was.
Bum. But speaking of bums, too many of those have played opposite Aiden Hutchinson during his time. I know that the Lions have been winning, and I'm not saying that about AQM or Davenport in terms of availability is certainly a bum, and Josh Pascal is kind of a bum. But the point is that you can have that opposite from Aiden Hutchinson, because when I was watching these Donovan Ezeraku highlights, and I understand that James Houston was absolutely a flash in the pan, and it's been proven that way with how he's had his career since. But that's what a lot of those Donovan Ezeraku bend moves looked like. He didn't. The tackle couldn't even touch him. And if James Houston can do that in small spurts at the NFL level, Donovan Ezeraku can do that opposite Hutch, a better Hutch, by the way, than he was as a rookie year, in big spurts in the NFL. And I really believe that.
Defense overall.
Absolutely.
All three levels. You know, think about it. You got the crazy Anzalone behind you. You have Jack Campbell, who I believe is going to take another step forward. You're talking about the confidence, another year of weight training, and I believe that they got some good coaches around them right now. And surprise, Kelvin Shepard, his coach, is